So hi, I'm Hugo Messer. I'm the founder of Ekipa, and in this video I want to tell you a little bit about why I started Ekipa, why we exist and what we would like to bring to you as a client or maybe a potential employee later on, and what it is that we're doing. So first of all, I'm an entrepreneur, and what we try to do with Ekipa is to bring an entrepreneurial spirit to the people that we serve. And for me, entrepreneurship is about recognizing things that need to be improved. So it's about recognizing business opportunities, it's about recognizing things that are broken and then trying to fix them, ideally by creating business models around it. So it's about a certain spirit or attitude towards life and work, and we try to infuse this spirit. And one of the ways we do this is through Agile. And for me, Agile is a lot about self-organization. Well, self-organization, and I'm a leader, so I always look at it from a leader perspective. Self-organization means to me that my teams are all entrepreneurial. So they take initiative. Yeah? They feel they're empowered by me, they are trusted by me, by their leader, and they take accountability. They feel responsible for the things that they are working for. Now, that's a bit about why we exist. And what we do as Ekipa is basically three things. So if you look at transformations nowadays, there are three things that we help enterprises with. First of all, it's about the Agile way of working. And as I explained before, Agile is about how do people get self-organized? How do we look at work? How do we work in cross-functional teams in an iterative way? So this is the basic foundation of the Agile way of working. This is the operating system that you need in order to create a modern organization that grows into the future. Now, the second pillar we help companies with is what we call the digital transformation. And in most organizations, this is still top-down. There's somebody higher up who typically hires one of the big 5 consultancies, and together they define a roadmap for digital products that brings the traditional organization into the future. Now, as Ekipa, we have development teams from our sister organization, Bridge Global, and we have engineers in Indonesia as well as India, and those people can help to build products. So we have product teams that dedicate themselves to building the digital product roadmap that you may have devised already. So that's the second pillar. The third one is around innovation, because what I believe is once you've got an agile way of working, so people are more self-organized, we have cross-functional teams that really self-organize and feel accountable. On top of that, we have a digital mindset, so the company is already moving towards digital. On top of that, we can start building innovation. And innovation means that we improve processes, we improve things that we are already doing. The business as usual can be incrementally improved, but it also means we're going to create disruptive innovation. So we're going to look at what happens in the startup scene in the US and what happens in Europe and what other startups do we see pop up, so that as an enterprise, we can start acting upon that. And in my view, we need people to be self-organized and entrepreneurial in order to create this innovation. So Ekipa helps organizations to create innovation programs that build upon this agility. So everything wrapped up means we help companies to create agile innovation engines. And one of the fundamental things that we also help you with is leadership capabilities, because without leadership that has a vision on what agile, digital and innovation mean, we have a weak fundament. So Ekipa helps to educate leaders through training and one-on-one coaching to improve their capabilities to support these 3 pillars of transformation. So in the previous video I explained why Ekipa exists and what it is that we bring to the world. In this video I shortly want to explain how we do this, because I've learned that a lot of leaders are keen to know how do you do something, because a lot of people can create great ideas and they can, especially consultants like us, we can create great stories, but it always comes down to how do you take us through that transformation. And I believe that transformation today is an iterative approach. So our Agile Innovation Framework takes the Agile way of working, the Agile way of executing things, also to the strategic roadmap. So what we'll typically do is we run through several laps, as we call it. So they are not steps, because steps means I do step 1, 2, 3, and then I have a predictable outcome. But we run companies through labs, which means that we might start in number 2 and then we might go to number 4, or we might even iterate into some of them. But typically what we do in lab 1 is we create awareness on the BOD or C-1 or VP level. So we get a group of leaders and we start doing a workshop around what does agile means, what does innovation mean, and how can we become a digital organization? What does this mean to me as a leader? What kind of changes do we make in the hierarchy or in the KPI systems? There are a lot of things that we need to address and change within our organizations to become a more modern organization. So in that first lab, we have conversations with leaders to prepare the agile organization. Now, typically from there, we start creating what we call roadmap or the rules of the game in lab 2, where we define, okay, what are the things that we're going to do in the next, let's say, 4 quarters, with a focus on the first quarter, to make your organization agile in the next 4 quarters. And we make roadmap items, we prioritize that in the backlog, so we apply the agile way of structuring our backlog and making a roadmap. We apply that to the agile transformation itself. Now in the third lab, we choose a couple of pilot teams or pilot products that we're going to coach. So one of our coaches or maybe 2 of our coaches come in. They will start working with 2 or 3 teams or squads or however you call your teams. And those coaches are going to help the teams on a day-to-day basis to become agile, to implement Scrum or Kanban or design sprint if it's an innovation team. So the coaches handhold the people to install the right mindset and to install the right habits. And then once we create positive outcomes with those pilot teams, we start spreading it, because that's all that counts. If we have a pilot, which might typically take 6 months or maybe 3 months, depending on the size of what you're trying to do, the outcomes that we generate with those pilot teams are going to result in briefings or reports to leadership, and from there we start seeing positive outcomes and we can start spreading it. So our approach to an agile transformation or an innovation transformation is iterative. We apply the agile way of working to transformation itself. So we're not going to promise you run through step 1, 2, 3 and in 1 year you're agile, because we've learned that's not how it works. But we have a very collaborative approach to this, and iteratively we try to find the right model for your agile organization. We try to influence the right people, we try to coach the right teams, so that over time your company becomes entrepreneurial, agile and innovative.